NotebookLM just released a set of updates that truly improves how you can research, summarize, and consume information with fewer hallucinations and much better control over the output. And as always, because I respect your time, I'll share a summary of what we're going to cover in the video. First, the new deep research capability and how it changes the workflow for finding reliable information. Then, the updated studio tools, including the ability to generate video presentations that are adjusted to your request. Lastly, a set of important enhancements, some already live, others coming in the next couple of weeks, that are really useful to know about. All right, let's take a look at the new deep research capability. For this video, I'm assuming that you already have some familiarity with NotebookLM. And if not, I'll link a NotebookLM tutorial video somewhere up here that I would recommend you to watch first. And it's not critical, but it is going to make it easier to follow along. So, when you create a new notebook, you will land in the view that you have here. And on the left-hand side, you now have a new section. So normally it would look something like this, where you can add your 4 different categories of sources. But we're actually not going to use that now. We are going to use this capability down here, which is the research. Now, the way it works is that you'll add your topic that you want to research. So let's say that we are curious about supermarket versus specialty coffee. What actually makes one better? And now you kind of have 2 options of triggering this deep research. First, you can select whether you wanted to run research on the web, which is what most deep research capabilities does, or you can actually let it search your Google Drive. And this is really good if you have like company collateral that you want to use as your source for your deep research. But in this case, we're gonna use the standard web search. So we'll select that. And then you have the ability to kind of trigger how deep you want the model to think about the research. So fast research means that it's going to fire away fairly quick. It's going to pick less sources and it's going to compile a report for you in a faster manner. But you can actually pick deep research, and that's the one that we want to be using this time. And what it will do is essentially the same as you are used to in the other models like ChatGPT, where it's going to run a more comprehensive deep research and then produce a report for you. But it has some additional features in here that are NotebookLM specific, which are really cool. So let's try that out. All right, let's fire it away. While it's running through the steps, let's adjust the title. So we can call it Supermarket versus Specialty Coffee Analysis. Okay, super. So now the deep research is completed. We can access it by clicking View. And here you'll see what you're likely quite familiar with if you were to do this in a different model. And what's really cool here is that you can see all the cited sources in the report. And sometimes it picks up sources that it finds relevant but didn't use to build up the report. And you'll find that under the not cited. But in this case, it used all of the sources that it found to be relevant. Now, we can import all of the sources the same way as we'd normally do. We just check and uncheck the boxes for the source that we want to use. And we can use the report as a source as well. So you can check and uncheck that at the top. So let's just plug all of that in. And from here, you can use the studio, as we'll do in a second, and use the chat as you would normally do. But it's now firing across all the sources that the deep research picked up. And it includes the synthesized information that was compiled up in the report. So it's a really strong tool. All right, let's take a look at some of the features that have now been released to the studio. For this episode, let's generate a video overview. I accidentally clicked it. Fat fingers, guys, what can I say? We're gonna have to let it generate 2 videos at the same time. The new feature is accessible if you click the pen. It will bring up this view, and here you have the ability to customize how it generates the video for you. So starting at the top, you can either have it be very comprehensive, and that is of course really good if you're trying to really deep dive into a topic. Let's say you're going to present 20%, but you want to know 100% of a topic, or if you're doing something in academia and you just want to have a really strong command of the topic that you're going to be talking about, then this is the format that you want to work with. If you are more like me and just wanted to get to the point so you can action something, then go for the brief setting. Here it's going to narrow everything down to kind of the key takeaways. And then you can choose your language, meaning which language is going to use in the video, and you have quite a lot to choose from. And the third adjustment element is that you can pick your visual style for the video. And you can see here that you can either let it auto-select, you can use custom, meaning that you prompt which style you wanted to build up the video with. This is the classic, so this is how it used to look before. And then you have a set of kind of pre-made formats that you can use. And then the last thing I just want you to be aware of is that you can point the AI to focus on certain things. Let's say that you're super curious about the supply chain of coffee beans. Then you can let the AI focus the video on that topic. You can also ask it to have a certain tone. Let's say that you wanted to talk more like a corporate presentation or talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Then you should add that in here too. Now, let's just make a selection and get going. So I will pick the whiteboard style for this video. And I don't want to oversell this, guys. If you know how it looked before, you would know that the video is basically a audio track connected to a presentation. Like think of it as, you know, you're at work and someone is presenting a PowerPoint to you. That has not changed. It still works that way. But you can now pick which style that presentation will have. Whiteboard seems like a good selection to make, given that the output will look the way it will look. Or am I being a bit boring here? Yeah, maybe I'm a bit boring. Let's pick something else. Papercraft sounds cool. Let's go with that. And then I actually like my example. So let's say, present this to me in the simplest format, e.g. talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old. I really hope that it won't actually talk to us like we're 5-year-olds, that it actually simplifies it down, but I guess we'll see what comes out. So I'll click generate here and let it start working on this. So now we actually have 2 videos because yours truly has a heavy finger. Must be all that weightlifting that I'm doing. So we'll just have to give it a couple of minutes and come back when it's ready. And while it's doing that, I just want to show you how some of the other elements have changed as well. The audio overview now has some changes too. This is what you would use to build out a podcast. So again, if you haven't seen the NotebookLM video that I did before, do check it out. The key takeaway that I showed there is that you can generate a podcast here based on your sources, and then you can interact with a podcast. So you can actually join in with the podcast and talk. What has changed is that you now have the ability to add a bunch of different formats. So at the top, you have the type of podcast that you would be listening to. So deep dive is again going to be this super comprehensive discussion on the topic. Brief is going to be the key takeaway, concise approach. And then you have the critique, which basically means that the AI is going to try to poke holes in the material. This is really good if you have a report that you're going to be presenting and you want to make sure that it's bulletproof. So you can let NotebookLM take a swipe at your report so you can identify your improvement areas. And then lastly, you have debate. It's essentially going to sound like those debates where you have 2 really, really good debaters and someone makes a really good point and then the next one comes in with a point that renders the old one mute and then they go firing back and forth. But it's not going to be super aggressive like you would expect from, you know, a political debate, for example. But rather, it's going to be kind of more of a friendly discussion that tries to nuance some of the topics that are captured in the topic that you're researching. Both really cool ways of consuming your information. And then again, you have your language setting and the ability to adjust length. So if you want to kind of go for key takeaways, then obviously go for shorter. If you're going to do a bunch of cleaning at home and you want to consume this at a slower pace, then you can go for longer or just leave it at default. And lastly, you can also steer the generation of the audio overview using the same chat capability as we just looked at in the video overview. All right, and then we have flashcards and quizzes that have similar capabilities. Now, these 2 actually look the same. So let me just explain what they do. On the flashcards, you have 3 elements that you can toggle here. First, you have the number of cards. So it is pretty self-explanatory. If you pick fewer cards, it's going to generate fewer cards for you, which is really good if you want to kind of feel confident around certain questions before consuming or training yourself on new information. So then you should go for fewer. And of course, if you feel more confident around the topic that you are trying to learn, you can go for more or go for standard if you want something in between. And then on the right-hand side here, you have level of difficulty. Again, pretty self-explanatory. If you go for easy, it's going to generate flashcards that are good if you are new to the topic. And the more advanced or confident you feel about it, the more you can kind of move up the difficulty ladder until you are going hard and with as many number of cards as you can. And here you also have the ability to narrow in the generation of the flashcards if there are certain topics that you want to deep dive into within your sources. And by the way, if you're wondering why everything looks different in the video, it's because I'm out traveling. But I have committed to release 1 video a week, or at least that's my goal. And so far I've managed to keep that promise. But sometimes I will have to do this. So I'll just bring my camera with me and record wherever I go. So our video is now complete. Again, it's not going to be a video. I feel a little bit like imposter syndrome when I say video, because reality is it's a presentation with a talk track behind it. We can start off with the one that we actually intended to do, and that is the supermarket versus specialty at the top.
Hey everyone, and welcome. We're going to get right into it today and talk about coffee. Specifically, what is the real difference between that standard bag of coffee you grab at the supermarket and one of those fancy premium bags? Let's break it down. So you've been there, right? You're standing in the coffee aisle, you see one bag for 4 quid and another for 14, and you think, what's going on here? Is it just fancy marketing?
All right, now let's take a look at the second video, A Tale of Two Coffees. I do think that NotebookLM sometimes has really cool narratives of how it builds up the titles. A Tale of Two Coffees sounds like really cool continuation of Lord of the Rings or something. All right, let's fire this one away.
Ever look at 2 bags of coffee and just wonder, why is one so much more expensive? Let's get into it.
You see it all the time in the store, right? There's a huge price gap. So, what's really going on here?
So is that pricey bag actually worth the money? Well, it all starts with the coffee beans themselves.
Yep, coffee gets a report card, and only the A students, the ones that score over 80 points, are called specialty.
Now I'm curious if this is actually the one that we picked papercraft for. It does look pretty papercrafty, right? I don't know, to be honest, but this looks like the actual papercraft format that we selected. I was probably wrong in saying that it was the first one. And we also asked it to oversimplify it. I at least didn't pick up which one was the oversimplification, but nevertheless, this is the way it's structured up. Now you have the ability to adjust how the video presentation is generated, which is really cool. Quick pause, I have a favor to ask. If you're enjoying the video so far, you should consider becoming a part of the small, but very exclusive group of around 5% of viewers that have subscribed. And if you've already subscribed, I just want to say thank you. You're the reason why this channel keeps growing and keeps getting better. Let's cover some of the important quality of life improvements that is already here and is going to come fairly soon. First is that if you click sources, you now have a bunch of additional file types that are supported. Before, you just had the 4 first ones, which are the PDF, text, markdown files, and audio if you were to drop it in as an MP3. But as you can see now, you have a bunch of other sources that you can use. And I know this is not like a huge deal, but it will save you the time of having to reformat your files by this small quality of life enhancement that they plugged in, which is really appreciated. Now, the next 2 things that I wanted to highlight is actually not out yet, but they are getting rolled out as we speak. The first thing I want to call out is what they refer to as images. So you'll basically be able to do, once this gets released, drop in your handwritten notes into NotebookLM, and then it will become a source for you. And if this works well, that is going to be amazing. If you are like me and take notes by hand on a lot of your meetings, and I do that because I know that cognitively, it has been proven that you remember things much better, and then you get somewhat of a benefit if you do it on keyboard, and you remember the least if you don't take notes at all. And I hope that this will prove to be as valuable as it could be by just uploading your notes and then have the ability to pull out the insights from the information. Images will be rolled out over the coming couple of weeks. It highlights that at the bottom here. So stay tuned. When it gets out, give it a try. I'm actually really excited about that one. And then the second thing that is still not out yet, at least where I am, is the ability to pull data from Google Sheets. What this basically means is that you can have NotebookLM, which is again tuned for lowest possible hallucination, pull insights from your Google datasheet. Now, again, this is not anything revolutionary. You could use reasoning models like O3 or O4 Mini. NotebookLM is super accessible. So if this works smoothly, it basically means that you don't need to worry about the caps that oftentimes comes with the heavy reasoning model when you're doing the same activity through NotebookLM. And now you've learned the latest features that have been deployed in NotebookLM. As always, let me know if you liked it, and let me know if you didn't like it, because this channel is for you. So your feedback really matters. Lastly, if you want to continue your learning path in the Google ecosystem, I will point you to this video. It covers Google's full course on generative AI leadership and shows you how to pass the official certification exam if you're interested. So with that said, thanks again for trusting me with your time. And don't forget, good ideas always starts with a good cup of coffee. Cheers.